Good day, folks. This is Greg Judy, Green Pastures Farm. Today I'm with Connor and Isaac, and we just moved the cattle out of a piece of forage here that was clipped. Well, we clipped, I'll just give you a landscape here. That paddock right there was probably around 70% Sericea lespedeza. Maybe higher.
Like this paddock.
Yeah, it looked like the one, well, you'll see it in a minute. It's actually worse than that paddock over there. It was almost solid. But anyway, we clipped it the end of July, and the boys brought them in there while Jan and I were gone to Joel Salatin's conference last week. And they did a good job. There was a lot of vegetative stuff that came back, and they grazed it. So we got something out of it. You can see the Sericea still there in the fence row where I didn't mow. It's about 2.5, 3 foot tall. Terrible forage if you let it get that tall. So the only way we found to use it is to clip it. But guys, give me your all thought process. You know, it hadn't rained. Kind of give them an idea of where we're at in our growing conditions here right now.
Yeah, so it hasn't rained in like close to a month. It's pretty dry, and you know we're in the fall stockpile mode where we're moving them fast and kind of skip grazing them to try to keep as much leaf matter left standing on the plant. But kind of what we did here is, so this farm, it's all above ground polyethylene pipe is our water source.
Okay.
And so wintertime, it's pretty hard to water animals on this piece just because of that. You know, if it's anywhere below below freezing, you know, you're kind of up a creek without a paddle as far as your water. So as far as a winter system, this farm is not as ideal as, let's say, Doc's, which is the big farm.
Correct.
So we kind of had the thought, if we kind of tighten them down a little bit on these paddocks, make them graze it a little bit harder, which then it'll buy an extra, we bought an extra day by doing that. We're just saving, grass here is less valuable than grass there.
Correct.
So grass there is, it's got an extra day to grow and build stockpile. And they actually, since you brush hogged it, like you said, everything was palatable in these paddocks.
Yep.
And they grazed it probably shorter than we've done all year round, but they've grazed everything they grazed they could eat, and it was palatable. It's not like they were forced to eat woody stuff. And so Connor and I were noticing when we were moving them out of these paddocks, every single time they were plumb full. Like it looked like they'd just been off of grass this tall, when really it was just very vegetative, a lot of good quality grass.
Well, Connor, you made the comment earlier, talk a little bit about how you think the minerals in the grass has gotten.
Yeah, so I mean, it hasn't rained in like a month and a half, and so when it doesn't rain, the minerals start getting stored more in the grass, and they become way more nutrient dense. So we were worried moving them in here if it would be enough, but like so we were checking them to make sure they weren't limited, and so it seems like they're getting all they want and more. So it's I would think it's probably because it's all palatable and it's starting to store a lot more nutrients in it because it's so dry.
So dry.
We probably put some gains on the cattle, actually, the way it worked out.
I tell you what, guys, I looked at them this morning. I was the gate opener. You all were behind them, and they looked really good. Yeah. They really did. I would call the term pig fat.
Yeah, they're starting to really pack the weight on.
Yeah. Well, you all made the comment, you came over here once, they were down on that bottom over there, and because you saw something, so you didn't just put it in automatic, go open a gate. What did you do when you came in here that night? And
so we pulled down this gate right here.
Yep.
We got to, right inside the gate, and we could see in that bottom, and every single animal was spread out across that bottom grazing. And we had known from being there earlier in the day that there was just so much grass left in there. So we stopped. I was like, Connor, stop the four-wheeler. Set it off. Stopped the four-wheeler, and we talked about it. And we're like, let's just leave and let them, kind of clean up a little bit more. And so that's what we did. And sure enough, the next morning, they were down there at the gate ready and waiting for us.
Yeah. If you'd have kept going down there and they heard that four-wheeler, they'd all come right to you.
Yep.
That four-wheeler's like a food call to them.
Yeah. Yep. So we bought an extra half a day by doing that.
Yep.
So we could have. So in hindsight, we could have probably split that into 4, and it would have been better graze. But we didn't want to push them too hard.
Right.
We didn't know. So sometimes it works out to just
Well,
do that.
let's talk about that a little bit. So y'all were a little bit concerned, and rightfully so. First thing we got here this morning, you said, "Now, Greg," you said, "we haven't had any rain, and what do you think, our management practices should be right now as far as our grazing? Do we tighten them down even tighter than we are right now to buy more time in front, or do we continue to doing this what we call tip grazing?" And so that was a very logical question, and so we talked about it, and basically what I replied to Connor and Isaac was, we are here in the fall. It is stockpile mode. We can still grow grass probably clear up into November, assuming we catch a rain in October. So my concern is right now, if we tighten them up, and it looks like the ground underneath those shade trees right there,
Mm-hmm.
they take it all down fairly short like that, instead of leaving it more like we've got pretty good residual out here.
Mm-hmm.
Put your hand down there.
And this is shorter than what most of the paddocks we've been leaving.
Yeah, but you're still up to your wrist.
Yeah, there's.
So you got 6
to
8 inches of leaf there.
Yep.
And if we tighten them up to buy more time, and we take this forage down even shorter, folks, and we do get a rain, now we've got grass that's, let's say, 2 to 4 inches tall. It's not going to grow as fast.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm making the call that we're going to keep moving them, leaving as much of this grass as we can to capture as much sunlight as we can. And the longer we leave it, what's going to happen if we get a rain, folks?
It's going to explode.
Also, what's it going to do to the ground cover by leaving more grass?
It'll catch more rain.
Catch more rain, and what else? It's going to keep the ground from
like a frost,
freezing and heating up. If it gets, we're going to get 90 today.
Yeah.
And so the more cover we leave behind, it's going to act like an umbrella. It's going to keep that sunlight off of our precious soil. So, calf's over there.
Looking on the floor, really.
Yeah. So let's go ahead and march forward to what we turned them on this morning, so we can show folks that these cattle have a pretty good life.
They're full going into the paddock.
It was funny, guys. I have to share with you. There was a guy made a comment on YouTube the other day, one of our subscribers, and he's like, he said, if I ever want to come back in anything, he said, I'd like to come back as one of Greg Judy's cows. I thought that was funny. Man, they got a great life here. They do.
They do, but they also have to work for us too.
Yeah, they have to work. They have to work.
They're bred to do well on this,
Well, there's no grain bunks. We're not
Yeah.
feeding them any grain. The heifers are not sorted off and weaned.
Yeah, they have to take their calf through the winter.
They have to take their calf through the winter. The cows.
But since they're bred, since your breeding practices, they can do really well in your system.
Yes, that's right. We've got our frame size down on our cattle, and raising bulls like that, that'll get you there. Whew, he's a good one. Golly. Just a thick bull. Yep, kind of hurts your eyes to look at them. But look at... Oh yeah, that's right. Look at this though, folks. What do y'all think about this forage?
Yeah, it's thick.
Look at that.
Everything it's super palatable, super lush.
Well, just for Connor, you pulled that grass back right here. You've got, my God, that's alfalfa. I was going to say it's the Lespedeza, but that's alfalfa. You've got your white clover. There's a little bit of red in here. Of course, you got the fescue.
There's some orchard grass in
There's
there.
some orchard grass.
The orchard grass right there.
Yeah, right there's orchard grass. They've already nailed it. So, this paddock, folks, was not clipped. But the boys did an excellent job of grazing that this last rotation. And I can remember when y'all took them off here, it looked like it had been clipped.
Yeah.
You got the stocking pressure just right.
Look at this orchard grass in here. It's like a
yeah.
mix of orchard and fescue, I think.
Yep.
There's some fescue and then...
Look what they did right there.
Yeah, they just nailed it.
They nailed it.
That's the perfect height if they just leave
Yep.
it right there.
Yep.
Which they're gonna do, today.
Well, yeah. So at the talk, I'll share with you all. Ray Archuleta was talking about when you bring cattle in, you know, just taking that top bite, and then if you make him go back and take that second bite, it wasn't Ray, I'm sorry, it was Jim Garish. He had to borrow a pocket knife from the crowd on the third bite. He couldn't rip it off. There was a great big chunk of sod there that they went out and cut out of Joel's pasture, and it was recovered pasture, so Jim took the top bite off and explained, you know, the benefits of what cattle get on that bite. You know, a lot of protein, a lot of energy, and then they took that second bite, and it's just going down. So the lower you make those animals graze in that canopy, the quality goes down, and your recovery goes down. So,
It's just a lose-lose situation.
It is. And one thing else people don't realize, look at that cow. She's not expending much energy grazing right there.
Easy.
It's easy. That tongue, it's just going after. Look at her. She's just getting the candy, and so it's easy grazing. The longer you leave them in the paddock, the grazing gets harder. It's harder for those cows to rip that off of there, and they have to take more bites. So the more bites they have to take to fill up, that's not a good thing.
I mean, you wrap a tongue in here, look what you can grab, you know? It's not, there's so much, you know, everything in here, they don't have to be picky and choosy, they just reach out there and grab it.
Yep. I'll tell you what, guys, for no rain for a month and a half, I would say our soil's doing pretty well here. I was talking to somebody, they said that they were going to have to start feeding hay, you know, here pretty soon. And I'm like, feeding hay? You know, middle of September? That's a long winter. That's a long winter.
We've got a lot of grass in front of us, too.
We do. We do. That. It's a good feeling. You know, folks, what do you all think about this? You know, we've got all the animals in one mob right here. That's pretty key, isn't it?
You had to have 2 herds going around here, you'd be toast. We might be feeding hay right now.
Yeah.
If that was the case.
Why is that?
Your recovery period. You know, if you think about it, you know, this is like, it took me a while to figure this out, because it's like, well, it's the same amount of animals, right?
Right.
You know, it should be recovering, you know, it should be the same amount of grass, you know, that they're eating and everything, but if they're on opposite ends of the farm, which is with 2 herds is the ideal situation, and they're rotating, the time from when this herd leaves to this herd is shorter than if they were all together and they're moving around all at once.
But Isaac, you got the same number of animals.
Right. It took me so long to figure it out, but it's like, you know, if you think when the herd leaves that farm, how much is sitting behind them? It's the whole farm is sitting behind them resting. Whereas if you've got the 2 animals,
half of the farm.
2 paddocks are always being grazed, and
Correct.
It's only half the farm that. Yeah, exactly. So.
You double your recovery time, essentially, when you have.
There you go. There you go. Man, you all good learners. And y'all getting to see it firsthand here. You know, if it was all easy when you came here as an intern or a young man learning the skill, if it was all easy every day, you just go away thinking this is a piece of cake. But you get into times like this when it gets more difficult. And to give you an example, Joel Salatin emailed me like 2 months ago and said, Greg, it is dry here. We haven't grown any, you know, it's just, I think at that time he said they had like 3 or 4 inches of rain the whole year. Well, then I come in there on Thursday, or actually Wednesday night, and I'm like, it doesn't look dry here. Everything's green. And he's like, well, we got 9 inches of rain. They got 9 inches of rain. And that came in the month of August, right when they needed it. And so everything was green and lush, and people were mowing their yards again. And, you know, Joe had a lot of grass, and it rained on us on Friday there, or Thursday.
Yeah,
and,
I was watching that video, and I was watching it rain, and then you said something about, oh, I hope it's raining in Missouri. I'm like, oh, it's not. I wish it was.
What'd y'all say? It was rain and dust?
Yeah, rain and dust.
Rain and dust.
A lot of dust on the roads.
Yeah. Yeah, I was hoping that rain that hit us was in Missouri too, but I kind of had a feeling it wasn't.
Yeah.
So, all right. Well, let's walk over. I'm gonna get a close up. I want y'all to stand by this 3C Lespedeza right here in this fence row, and show people why we clipped it. And I didn't clip this paddock over here. I just ran out of time, and I just wanted to show what it looks like unclipped. I mean that stuff's a beast. Look at that. It's up to your waist.
Yeah.
So, not real good feed. Sheep, If you got sheep or goats, that's pretty good forage. They'll work on that, but cattle,
They even don't really like it too much when it
they
gets like this.
no, they don't. They like it a little more tender. So
They'll like tip it, you know, they'll take the tips off of it.
Yep.
Like that.
this is another reason not to have a lot of permanent subdivisions if you don't need them. And this one's kind of nice to have, though. We got one single wire in here, but look at that. If that wasn't there, I could clip that, but you can't mow over the top of a wire. Anyway, we're going to go ahead and sign off here. We got to get the water set up here. We got a movable tank that we're going to put in this morning on pressurized water. So y'all new to the channel, hit that subscribe button on the way out, and we'll be seeing y'all down the road.